Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving both our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
Edmonton Highlands, followed by Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to present to the Assembly a petition signed by several hundred University of Alberta students asking that the government reverse the policy which allows universities to charge visa student differential fees.
Edmonton Gold Bar.
Speaker, I beg leave to present a petition containing 32 signatures urging the Government of Alberta to provide flexibility in how the upper limit of home care is applied where there are special circumstances, and also to provide an appeal process for recipients.
Thank you.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Speaker, I rise to give oral notice that I will move at the end of question period under Standing Order 40 that this Assembly urge the government to refuse further funding for the Focus on Forest program and the Education Forestry Tours sponsored by groups such as the Alberta Forest Products Association until such time as those programs are put into the control of professional educators to prepare a balanced view of the role and purpose of the forest as well as the forest industry.
Thank you. Edmonton Highlands.
To give oral notice of a motion I intend to move later today at the appropriate hour. I'll be requesting the House approve a motion to let Bill 213, Labor Relations Code Amendment Act, stand and retain its place on the order paper in the absence of the sponsoring member.
Thank you.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Dunvegan, followed by Beggar, followed by Edmonton Whiteman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 51, the Municipal Government Act. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce this bill, Mr. Speaker. It is a result of 5 years of work and consultation by the Municipal Statute Review Committee. The member from Rocky Mountain House and myself had the privilege to serve on this committee and had the pleasure of hearing from over 3,000 Albertans. Mr. Speaker, this bill introduces some new concepts that will put Alberta on the leading edge of municipal legislation in Canada. It proposes a municipal corporation should, like businesses, put Alberta on the leading edge of municipal legislation. It proposes a new municipal corporation should, like businesses, have all the powers of a natural person, except where limited by law. It gives locally elected officials authority to pass local bylaws in very broad areas, as long as they do not intrude on provincial or federal law. Mr. Speaker, the legislation establishes local governance commission to facilitate local resolutions of municipal issues. The goal of these and other measures in this bill, Mr. Speaker, is to give municipalities the flexible legislative framework they need to serve Alberta into the 21st century.
The honourable member for Dunvegan has moved first reading of Bill 51, Municipal Government Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 51, Municipal Government Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Clegg, is now read a first time.
Deputy Government House Leader, with respect to Bill 51.
Mr. Speaker, I would move that Bill 51 be placed on the order paper under Government Bills and Orders.
Having heard the motion, those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. Thank you. Vegreville.
Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 336, the Local Authorities Election Amendment Act. This bill, if passed, would protect municipal employees from potential conflict of interest or compromising situations by requiring the local municipality to hire someone other than an employee to act as returning officer during municipal elections.
Good idea.
The honourable member for Vegreville has moved first reading of Bill 336, Local Authorities Election Amendment Act 1992. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 336, Local Authorities Election Amendment Act 1992, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Fox, is now read a first time.
Whitemud, followed by Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 329, being the Dog Owners Liability Act. The purpose of this legislation is to make a dog owner liable for damages resulting from a bite or attack by a dog on a person or a domestic animal.
Ankle biters.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading to Bill 329, Dog Owners Liability Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
329, Liability Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Wickman, first time.
Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Bill 327, Arts Board and Arts Council Act. I think this is the third or fourth time I've introduced this bill, Mr. Speaker. It allows for the democratic election of an arts funding agency which would allow independent funding for artists in Alberta. And I hope one day, Mr. Speaker, this will be also moved beyond government bills and orders.
The honourable member for Edmonton Highlands has moved first reading of Bill 327, Arts Board and Arts Council Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 327, Arts Board and Arts Council Act, introduced by the honourable member, Ms. Barrett, is now read a first time.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill being Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 1992.
The Honourable the Attorney General has moved first reading of Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 1992. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill 52, Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 1992, introduced by the Honourable Mr. Rostad, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Family and Social Services Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to
table the responses to questions number 206, 208, 209, 210, 214, 216, 219, 280, and 314.
Minister of Forestry, let's get it right this last day. Tourism, Parks, and Recreation.
Pleased to file with Assembly today 4 copies of lists showing the approved projects under the Community Tourism Action Program, which is administered by the Tourism Industry Association of Alberta, better known as TIALTA. This list contains approved projects from the start of the program up to March 31st, 1992.
Minister of Technology, Research, and Telecommunications.
Speaker, I'd like to table various ministerial responses to questions raised by members on Committee of Supply.
Okay. The Honorable the Solicitor General.
Speaker, I'm pleased to file with the Assembly the required copies of answer to written question 358.
Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just earlier, the new Municipal Government Act was introduced for first reading as Bill 51. I wish to file a copy of a discussion guide in respect to Bill 51, and it is designed to assist Albertans in their comments and views regarding the proposed new Municipal Government Act. Sufficient copy being provided for all members. I have a second filing, Mr. Speaker, as well. I request leave to file a copy of a white paper on the proposed Property Assessment Act. This document is to be read in conjunction with Bill 51, and I look forward to the comments and opinions of Albertans so that both Bill 51 and the Property Assessment Act can be proceeded with during the next session of this legislature. Again, sufficient copies have been supplied for all members.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the 1990-91 annual reports of the Student Finance Board and the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Fund.
Okay, additional. Calgary Glenmore.
Speaker, I rise to table the 1992 annual report of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Alberta.
Edmonton Jasper Place.
Speaker, I wish to file copies of, file written questions with the Assembly seeking details of the government involvement in various forest industry propaganda ventures.
Okay. Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, I have for filing copies of a report of my recent tour of the Edmonton Penitentiary.
Did you feel privileged?
Introduction of special guests.
Minister of Transportation and Utilities, followed by the Minister of Advanced.
Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of this Assembly a couple from Kamloops, BC. Mr. and Mrs. Chubb Fraser. Chubb and Min are visiting Alberta today. Their beautiful daughter Heather is married to our youngest son Rob, and I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased today, sir, to introduce to you and members of the Assembly Mr. Fred Hemingway, the Chief Executive Officer of the Student Finance Board, and Mr. Leon Lubin, who's the Director of the Heritage Scholarship Fund Program. Both of these gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, have been extensively involved in the program review of the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund Scholarship Program. They're seated in the public gallery, Mr. Speaker, or the members' gallery, and I'd ask that they please now rise and receive the warm welcome of members of the House.
Minister of Family and Social Services, followed by the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me to introduce through you and to the members of the Legislative Assembly Mr. and Mrs. Dale Jodwin of Phoenix, Arizona. Mr. Jodwin is the nephew of Hugh and Peter Tadman and is an expatriate Edmontonian who has distinguished himself on the football field while attending school in this city a few years back. They are accompanied by Mr. Jodwin's brother Jeff. They are seated in the members' gallery, and I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Thank you. Sometimes I believe that we in ministries tend to overlook or take for granted the work that is performed so well for all Albertans by people in our civil service. And we have today in the members gallery an assistant deputy minister who is greatly responsible for placing Bill 51 in his preparation on the order paper today. And through 5 years of commitment and diligent work, we do have the document which can change municipal government in this province. And I'm pleased to introduce to the Assembly, through you and to you, Mr. Tom Forgrave, the Assistant Deputy Minister who has been in charge of this in the department. And I would ask for the acknowledgement.
Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a gentleman named Mr. Link Rogers from the city of Fort McMurray, who also is a political science student at the University of Alberta and is here to observe government firsthand. Mr. Link Rogers is seated in the members' gallery, and I'd ask him to rise and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements.
Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Fund was established by the Government of Alberta in 1981 through a $100 million endowment from the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund. It has been an outstanding success. 70,000 Albertans have had their achievement recognized, and in excess of $98 million has been awarded. In recent years, approximately 1 in 10 Alberta students enrolled full-time in our post-secondary system have merited an Alberta Heritage Scholarship. Over a year ago, Mr. Speaker, I authorized a review of the Scholarship Fund, and today I am pleased to announce the results of this wide-ranging consultation. The Heritage Scholarship Program will continue to reward those Albertans who are achieving excellence. We have changed existing programs to recognize the needs of the 90s. Scholarship income will now be used loans and indebtedness of scholarship recipients in order that they may receive a direct benefit. The Alexander Rutherford Scholarship Program has assisted more than 46,000 high school students with a total of $51 million. For the benefit of those students studying in French, Francais 10, 20, and 30 will be recognized. A new category will be added to the Rutherford program to acknowledge academic achievement of the province's top 10 grade 12 students. These students will be known as Rutherford Scholars and will receive an additional $1,500. Revisions to the Louise McKinney scholarships have been made to increase the number of recipients by 180 to a total of 930. Recipients of the Charles S. Noble Award for Student Leadership will now receive a monetary award as further recognition of this achievement. The Sir Frederick Haltane Prize program will be changed to provide $20,000 scholarships in each of the arts, sciences, and the humanities. Mr. Speaker, a number of new initiatives will be implemented to assist high school students. Number one, adult learners enrolled full-time to attain their high school equivalency in order to pursue post-secondary education will now become eligible to compete for adult high school equivalency scholarships valued at $500. Secondly, the Alberta High School Citizenship Award will recognize citizenship and leadership and will be awarded by the Minister of Education and myself to one graduating student from each of Alberta's high schools. I am proud as well, Mr. Speaker, to announce a number of new initiatives involving partnerships as a means of encouraging the achievement of excellence and meeting shared objectives by providing lifelong training opportunities for Albertans. International Business Awards, co-sponsored college hockey school scholarships. The Alberta Foundation for the Arts scholarships will enable students to study at the master's level and in short-term courses. Excellence in Teaching Research Fellowships will be established with post-secondary institutions. We will also develop a program to encourage the improvement of small business entrepreneurial skills. Mr. Speaker, this extensive review of the programs administered by the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Fund provided the opportunity to make the necessary adjustments to ensure that the fund continues to meet the needs of Albertans into the 1990s and beyond. I plan to introduce legislation in the near future to establish the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Foundation, thereby giving our citizens a greater opportunity to assist in the establishment and the availability of scholarships for Alberta students. In 1997, Mr. Speaker, the program will be reviewed again to ensure that further adjustments can be made. Maintaining the value of the fund at $100 million in 1981 dollars will enable this legacy to remain intact for future generations. It should be remembered, Mr. Speaker, the scholarship fund was made possible by the government that had the vision to create the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund. And in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, achieving excellence shall be the theme of the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Fund for many, many years to come.
Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, certainly I have no great problems with the expansion of what I think has been a good program in the past. If I may say so, when I had a real job as a high school counselor, I had to deal with these issues and the Scholarship Trust Fund when it came in, Mr. Speaker. And I certainly have no problem with expanding what is a good program. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to, in saying that, though, say to the Honourable Minister that we must remember that the funding for post-secondary institutions hasn't kept pace with the rate of inflation in the last 9 years, except for election years. And as a result of that, the more important point is that a lot of qualified students are either going back to high school, causing a problem at the public level, or just not getting into post-secondary education. Right. That's the major challenge that we face in the Minister's Department, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's important if, when the government set this up, I notice, Mr. Speaker, they talk about it coming from the trust fund and the vision about a trust fund. At that time, they must have recognized that higher education was an investment, not an expense, Mr. Speaker. And if we're going to compete in that global economy, this is one of the best investments that we can make, Mr. Speaker. And we have to get away from that mentality that I hear in the legislature here a lot of times. But, Mr. Speaker, in saying that, the government did say, and I quote, I can't resist this, should be remembered, Mr. Speaker, this scholarship fund was made possible by the government that had the vision to create the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund. Well, I would remind the Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, that we've gone from having a province with assets to a debtor province now, including the trust fund. So the legacy of this government now is going to be Novotel, MagCan, Mirius, and GSR, not the trust fund, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Right. Additional ministerial statements. Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I rise to speak on an issue which all Albertans, no matter where they live, will at some point be affected. And property taxation is the single largest source of revenue for Alberta municipalities. The white paper that has been tabled today provides Albertans with an opportunity to participate in a significant reform of the property tax assessment system. The draft legislation in the proposed Property Assessment Act and the local taxation provisions in the proposed Municipal Government Act together constitute the major reform of the assessment and taxation system presently defined in the Municipal Taxation Act. The proposed legislation owes much to the Municipal Statutes Review Committee, chaired by the Honourable Member from Dunvegan, who introduced Bill 51 today, and included the Honourable Member from Rocky Mountain House. The draft was recommended by that committee in August 1991. The committee referred to its draft as a Property Assessment Act for the 21st century, and I believe that the legislation in this white paper can provide the structure for a system of property tax assessment which will in fact serve Albertans well for many years to come. A major objective of the legislation is to make the assessment system more comprehensible to the taxpayer. When the process is obvious and logical, taxpayers are more likely to have confidence that it is reasonable and fair. This legislation incorporates a number of initiatives designed specifically to improve confidence in the property tax assessment process. I will be urging all Albertans to consider the legislation carefully and to respond to me with comments before the end of November this year. It is my hope to introduce the Property Assessment Act into the Legislative Assembly at the spring 1993 sitting in order that market value assessments will be in place for taxation in 1996. Thank you.
Leader of the Opposition.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, we never have any problem with white papers and consulting. I guess we're more concerned about the end product, Mr. Speaker, to see if the government actually listened or not after all the consultation that they go through. And as often in the past, that has not been the case, but we'll give the minister the benefit of the doubt for the time being. But, Mr. Speaker, if I may say so, this is only part of the problem, the tax assessments, and I welcome the fact that they are going to have the white paper and go out and consult. But at the same time, what is a major problem when I traveled around talking to local governments is their concern about downloading from this government onto them, Mr. Speaker. And there's examples in the past session of safety codes, provincial ambulance, but an ongoing one is education, Mr. Speaker. The bulk of it, 80% when this government took over, educational revenues came from here, Mr. Speaker. Now that's down less than 60%. That's as big a concern to them as anything when I'm talking to them, Mr. Speaker. Now, the point that was brought to me by one municipal government, a mayor, in fact, he said, if you think it's important to pass here, then you provide the responsibilities. If you don't think it's important, don't download it on us, don't pass laws here. And I think that makes a lot of sense, Mr. Speaker. Now, the other point I'd want to make in this partnership, Mr. Speaker, is I don't think we got off to a very good start with what happened with the particular bill, the Alberta Municipal Finance Corporation, which again has irritated many municipalities, especially larger ones, where the $300 million that they thought was theirs was taken from the government. So that's not a very good start to partnership, Mr. Speaker. But in saying that, we'll wait and see what they eventually come back with in this paper, Mr. Speaker.
Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, because of this government's clumsy and desperate attempt to cling to power, Alberta's electoral boundaries have still not been redrawn. 3 years after the last Provincial Election Act, in fact, longer than that, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, now the government is going to draw the boundaries when an independent commission could not agree on the parameters set by the government majority in this legislature, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you're well aware, opposition MLAs have refused to participate in this fiasco because it flies in the face of what is right in parliamentary democracy.
Sure does.
My question, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier is simply this. How can the Premier justify proceeding to draw boundaries when only the government is involved and the MLAs are in an obvious conflict of interest?
Hear, hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I find it hard to believe the honourable members talking about it flying in the face of parliamentary democracy. I mean, surely we have a motion before the House and it's being debated. That's democracy. That's in our legislature, and I'm not sure you allow me to even get into it too far. But, Mr. Speaker, we have the responsibility as members of the legislature to come up with the legislation. And the members are invited, the expertise in their caucuses, to participate. If they choose not to, they're making the choice.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier just obviously doesn't understand conflict of interest.
That's right.
What we're supposed to do in this Assembly is to be reasonable, to be democratic, and this bill is none of that, Mr. Speaker, none of that. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Premier calls this, says this is the right of the Assembly to do this. That's nonsense, Mr. Speaker, and my question to come back to the Premier is simply this. How can the Premier say that it's ethical for politicians to drop the boundaries when they could, on fairly determined boundaries, to both ensure their own election and the election of this government? How is that reasonable and fair, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know the Leader of the Opposition is on some type of crusade to try and downgrade MLAs, who are the elected people from all across this province. They come here to this legislature and somehow continually trying to describe them as people who are feathering their own nest, conflict of interest. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I find it disgraceful that this constant knocking of this institution and knocking of the people who are elected in this institution. And I think it's deplorable.
Mr. Speaker, what is deplorable is this government being undemocratic. That's deplorable. Mr. Speaker, I don't need to downgrade the government MLAs. They do it all by themselves, Mr. Speaker, including the Premier.
They don't need any help.
Mr. Speaker, though, my question is, I hope that the Premier would have come to his senses about this, and I'll give him one last chance to stand up for democracy, Mr. Speaker. Given that this process is morally bankrupt, will the Premier now do the right thing and appoint an independent justice to do the work that needs to be done, Mr. Speaker?
Hear, hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition somehow feels that if MLAs vote on electoral boundaries, they are in a conflict of interest. Now Mr. Speaker, you know, and every member in this Assembly knows, that we have a responsibility to pass legislation with boundaries in it. Now, just the honourable member talks about something not being democratic. Let's just review for a moment, Mr. Speaker. We started off with an all-party select committee. They then had hearings all across the province, then brought legislation before this legislature, where we again debated, discussed, passed legislation. Then we had an independent electoral boundaries commission, who again had hearings, who brought an interim report. The interim report was passed throughout the province. We then had hearings again of this independent commission, actually 2 judges in the long run on it, and an independent committee, then made another report. And Mr. Speaker, we now have the Leader of the Opposition in a phony grandstanding way say, let's have another independent commission. The government has a responsibility, all of you have a responsibility to deal with these boundary maps, and you just got to get some courage and deal with it. Instead of trying to duck everything all the time, they just don't have the courage to deal with it, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. The chair allowed the question to proceed with some misgivings in terms of the rule of anticipation. Nevertheless, I allowed it to continue given the fact that I've only recently received notice that there's the possibility of motion 24 being debated sometime very, very late tonight or early tomorrow, or maybe in tomorrow morning's session if there is indeed one tomorrow. And therefore, it's on that basis that the matter was allowed to continue. Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Courageous, eh? To gerrymander. What courage, Mr. Speaker?
Question, Leader of the Opposition. Second.
Courage to be corrupt. Mr. Speaker,
Order. Second main question. We're finished with the first one.
I'd like to designate my second question to the member from Calgary Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, it's been nearly 3 years since this government took over Gainers from Peter Pocklington. It's cost taxpayers $100 million, but not one nickel has been recovered yet from Mr. Pocklington. In fact, this government's incompetence has hurt the viability of that plant and the jobs of the people who work there. Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, would the Premier tell us why his government agreed to let Peter Pocklington remove over $38 million from Gainers on the very day the master agreement was signed?
I'm sorry, this is sub judice. The subject is sub judice. You're supposed to be aware of that. Whoever might answer the question is aware of it. Order. Order. It is sub judice.
Has allowed questions about this matter before, and it's not about the...
Thank you. Thank you. No. Order. In this current sitting, the chair allowed one set of questions to proceed only. The onus responsibility is on the members. Fine. The chair has declared to the House that there's this very deep concern about sub judice. So ask your question, if you think you've got one.
Question in order, Mr. Speaker, and if it is, I'm inviting the Premier to respond.
Obviously, you're aware of the fact it's sub judice, so am I, and I should not get into it. The Honourable Provincial Treasurer may have some comment he'd make when I refer the question to him.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file some documents, excerpts from documents from the Hong Kong Bank, which they claim that the government not only knew about this $38 million transfer to upstairs companies controlled by Mr. Pocklington, but they also approved them as a precondition for giving assistance to Mr. Pocklington.
Oh, nice deal.
Now, given, Mr. Speaker, that this is different from the original reasons given for the government by giving help to Mr. Pocklington, that was to upgrade Gainer's plant in Edmonton, build a new one in southern Alberta. Would the Premier tell us why the government allowed taxpayers' money to be used, instead of the reasons given, to put over $38 million into the wallet of Mr. Pocklington?
Good question.
Mr. Speaker, the fact he uses some phony speculation doesn't make the question any less sub judice.
Public knows, Mr. Speaker, we don't know it. Mr. Speaker, the Hong Kong Bank says that the government was motivated by a concern for public relations and for their image. Would the Premier admit that the government did not want their aid package to Mr. Pocklington to be seen as a payoff for settling the Gainers' strike, and so they approved these transactions, which in effect resulted in Mr. Pocklington enriching himself at public expense?
Yes. Yes.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's usual, I guess, when you get near the end of a session that the honourable members resort to digging any kind of old question up they possibly can get, whether it's sub judice or not, and that kind of phony speculation, about the Hong Kong Bank's position, Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable member doesn't know what he's talking about.
Glengarry, Edmonton Glengarry.
Here comes a man that knows what he's talking about.
Mr. Speaker, the Novotel nightmare gets worse and worse. We've confirmed that Novotel provided some $10 million in loans to a Peruvian company known as Telemovil. It is my information, Mr. Speaker, that the monies were given on sweetheart terms and conditions. My first question to the minister responsible for Novotel is this: why, Minister, why would you allow Novotel to invest Alberta taxpayers' monies into Peru?
Mr. There was a loan granted by the Novotel board of directors some years ago that has allowed an establishment of a particular cellular facility in that area. The loan is still there. It is being repaid. There have been some claims with respect to the performance of the equipment because of the use of it, but Northern Telecom have taken over the servicing of that contract, and we expect that it will be serviced in good order. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Peru is under martial law. The regime has closed the parliament and has put elected representatives of that parliament into jail. Our own External Affairs Department has issued a warning to Canadians, warning them not to travel to Peru. My question to the minister is this: will the minister explain to Albertans the security that's been given for the $10 million loan?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader seems to imply that the matter of this particular loan has not been taken into account with respect to the overall portfolio of assets that are there for monies repayable. That's not so. The fact of the matter is that there's been full allowance taken into account for all and any even potential losses, Mr. Speaker, and indeed a very conservative approach applied to the entire portfolio as well as this one in particular.
Mr. Speaker, the nightmare gets even worse. Astonishingly, Novotel used General Cellular Corporation of California to act as the broker to set this deal up. This is the same company that Novotel gave $78 million to and that we've already lost $33 million on.
Absolutely.
I'd like to ask the minister, Mr. Minister, how could you allow Novotel to use this California corporation to act as a broker to deal in Peru?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the particular loan through that particular company was a matter that was dealt with by the Novotel board at that time. The Federal Communications Commission of the United States sets the parameters with respect to those loans. They oversee those matters, and the loan was given at that time upon marketing conditions that they felt were appropriate. As I say, I would hope that all matters will be dealt with, as we indicate that they will in all likelihood be dealt with by Northern Telecom and servicing the account, and we would expect full payment, Mr. Speaker.
Called by Vickerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Earlier this week, Mr. Premier, you attended a First Minister's Conference in Ottawa to be a part of to resolve the constitutional deadlock. That deadlock really revolves around the historically powerful provinces in Canada being reluctant to give up some of the power they have by endorsing the Triple E Senate concept, which would be so beneficial to all of Canada. Mr. Premier, did you see any inclination on the part of these provinces to give up any of this power that they've enjoyed?
Mr. Speaker, I must tell the honourable member and all members of the Assembly that it was not a good meeting, the luncheon meeting at the Prime Minister's home. In terms of progress, it was not clear that we could see those who have, as the honourable member has suggested, who have called the shots in Canada over the years, from the power base of Ontario and Quebec to the huge population dominating the House of Commons and the Senate. I must say that I do not yet see a movement, a consideration that we should have fairness and equality in Parliament, fairness and equality that is embodied in a Triple E Senate, and I'm disappointed at this stage. Those who have this power want to continue to cling to it, and I hope, Mr. Speaker, that in the second meeting that we will be having regarding the Triple E, that they will see their way along the lines of the people of Alberta and, I must say, frankly, the people of Canada. One thing I was able to do, Mr. Speaker, is make sure that the other First Ministers know that Albertans are very strong Canadians. Albertans are not threatening Canada. Albertans will be here today, they'll be here tomorrow, and they'll be strong Canadians in the future. And it is not Alberta who is threatening Canada. The people of Alberta consider Triple E would make us a far stronger, unified country. And we're very determined, and we will. We have started the momentum on Senate reform. We have had the first election of a senator that is sweeping across this country now. Reform of the Senate, an elected Senate, an effective Senate, and the people of Canada support this province that we want an equal Senate.
Thank you. My supplementary is also to the Premier. Mr. Premier, there's another meeting convened for tomorrow to further the discussions, and I understand that the Triple E Senate is still on the agenda. Mr. Premier, my constituents and many Albertans know if you're going there to change your position.
Mr. Speaker, we are having a meeting tomorrow. It's, in a way, to some extent, an extension of the lunch, although the Prime Minister is involved in G7 meetings. If the lunch had extended, I was going to, into the kind of meeting that we had in Meech Lake, I was going to bite the Leader of the Opposition down to help as he has in the past. But it didn't work that way. The meeting was relatively short, and we broke for Canada Day and the Tuesday before it, and now we are going back to Toronto. And basically it's Premier's, although Mr. Clark will be sitting in an unofficial responsibility. I would not have gone nor agreed to this meeting, nor would the Deputy Premier be going with me if Triple E was not on the agenda. I'm not tremendously optimistic that we will have this understanding about giving up some of this power for a fair, equal Parliament in Canada. But I hope that we can make that kind of a breakthrough. The other provinces can understand the fairness that's needed. However, we find Ontario and Quebec and the federal government all with power that they don't want to give up. And that's going to be the key, Mr. Speaker, and we will be representing the people of Alberta to the best of our abilities, and I assure the honourable member and his constituents, we are determined on these principles, and we are not going to bend these principles of a Triple E Senate.
Vegreville, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recent tests done by Alberta Environment indicate that lake levels in east central Alberta are the lowest they've been since testing began, confirming what thousands of farmers in eastern Alberta know and what the Minister of Agriculture and his department seems not to recognize, that there is a serious and prolonged drought in that part of the province. While he attempts to do his imitation of a modern-day Nero, things get worse and worse. And I'd like to ask the Associate Minister of Agriculture, who made reference to some committee that's monitoring the situation, what specific action this government is taking with respect to assessing the feed supplies for livestock in northeastern Alberta and developing an immediate plan to cope with shortages in the area.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this Department of Agriculture is certainly very much aware of the situation in northeastern Alberta. And I think comments are a bit unfair. Obviously, there was a significant response in the past year with respect to water. And I reminded the honourable member, I think when I was asked a question similar to this a week ago, that we have in place and have had for some 20-odd years a crop insurance program which protects producers on yield. We introduced a revenue protection program which protects them on price. And we have a forage and pasture insurance program that were put in place and extended to that area of the province to protect forage and pasture for people who are raising grazing animals. Producers have the ability to contact the Alberta Hail and Crop Insurance Corporation if they feel that their crops are beyond productivity and have them assessed, and then have the option of putting them up for feed and or for grazing. So this is an option that producers have. They must do it in consultation with the corporation. There is a drought monitoring committee that is in place, and it was activated very early this year in response to what appeared to be a general drought in a number of areas in the province. I would...
Minister, I think we'll look forward to a supplementary, please.
Mr. Speaker, with respect to Madam Minister, cattle can neither eat nor drink insurance policies, and conditions in the area are serious indeed, and farmers want to know that they're being treated fairly. I'd like to ask the Minister, given that the government implemented a disaster assistance program in other regions of the province, which provided interest-free loans of up to $200,000 for 5 years, and this has not been provided for farmers in the Northeast. I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister when farmers in that region of the province can expect to be treated as fairly as farmers in the other parts of the province.
Good question. Well, Mr. Speaker, I think certainly I won't comment on what cattle can eat. I was responding to the fact that producers do have the option of using crops that are beyond productivity for grazing and or for forage. We do have an assessment of feed supplies in the province, and probably the most significant problem for producers is water, and we are assessing that. The Drought Committee will be meeting again early next week, and particular attention will be given to the Northeast area because of the difficulties there. I would say that we receive weekly updates from our regional people in that area as well as in others, and we are very closely assessing it and working with producers for the best interest of the producers, not just to make noise in the legislature.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Solicitor General has been quoted as crediting thirsty business executives in Calgary for making that city the libation capital of Alberta. Now, we know with the huge profits of the ALCB of about $439 million, the same Solicitor General has refused proper funding for 2 alcohol treatment programs in that city, forcing their temporary closure. My question to the Speaker, or to the Minister, Mr. Speaker, is that will he ensure that at least some of these huge profits go back to opening up these programs?
Mr. Speaker, this follows on a question on Friday relating to the services that we provide, and we're going to be reviewing them on an ongoing basis. And we certainly don't downplay the need for counseling as it relates to alcohol and drug problems and addictions in this province. And I can assure the honourable member that we will consider each and every program that we have on its merit and continue to serve the people of Alberta the best we can.
Mr. Speaker, possibly I could redirect this question then to the MLA in charge of ADAC. Could that individual let the House know whether, in view of the profits that the Liquor Board is making, whether he has made a specific request of the Cabinet that they put back in place 2 treatment centres, Riverside and McDougall, and also this temporary closure of the Sunrise and George Speedy detox centres, and let we get a set percentage of the profit to the LCAB.
Mr. Speaker, each year we go through a budgetary process with the Treasury Board and ask for the needs of the ensuing year for our agencies and ADAC as a facility for Albertans. It is our belief that that in general terms, the monies that have been allocated to our facilities this year are quite sufficient, and it's a matter at the present time where we're examining some of these locations of agencies where they have deemed that they have insufficient funds to continue, where we believe that there are some alternatives available within that organization itself. As such, Mr. Speaker, we're continually working with these people to ensure that they provide those services that we are funding in as complete a fashion as possible.
Calgary Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today we've heard that the premiers will be meeting tomorrow to discuss the Triple E Senate. My question is really a follow-up from last week, and it's to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Will the bills for the Economic Union be a part of these discussions, or will they evolve at separate meetings, and will they be ratified before the July 15th deadline imposed by the federal government?
Mr. Speaker, it's difficult to say what will take place tomorrow. The agenda is primarily concerning itself with the issue of Senate reform, and directly related to that, I expect the question of the amending formula will be discussed, because that relates to what is called by many people the issue of the Quebec veto, which is being asked for by Quebec relative to changes to the Constitution, relative to institutions in the future. So those 2 items, I think, will be discussed. If it is possible, I would think the issue of the Economic Union or Section 121 expansion, which would add significantly to the powers of the federal government to control the economy of Canada, may be discussed. But if not, I think it must be understood that issue has not been decided, and would be logically the subject of a further discussion at a meeting of the First Ministers, or by a reconvening of the ministerial meeting at which First Ministers are invited to attend and participate. So I can't give a definitive answer at this stage, but it is a crucial question. in the whole current round of discussions.
Mr. Speaker, as a supplementary, again, my question is to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Has there been an in-depth analysis completed on the proposed economic union to reflect the impact it will have on programs designed in Alberta on our diversification and our economy?
Mr. Speaker, we can't say that it's an in-depth study at this stage. Clearly, issues have been identified which are of grave concern to the smaller provinces, and I refer here certainly to all of the western provinces, all of whom oppose this very major extension of the federal government's ability to intervene in areas of provincial government's responsibilities. But certainly, because we have great concern that what would happen is there would be a restriction on provincial practices that do not distort trade and would impede the ability of provinces to create economic development and regulate other activities and also then throw the matter into the hands of the courts. But we have identified some areas of very major concern, and there are questions at this stage, certainly the question of the future of the farm fuel distribution allowance, our interest rate shielding programs. Would this require uniform taxation rates across the country for businesses? Would it be no longer possible for Alberta to provide the lowest small business corporate tax rate as a result of this new federal power being sought by the federal government and being endorsed by Ontario? These are all major issues that have to be clearly thought through. But from our perspective at this stage, while we have endorsed in principle and have supported enthusiastically the real removal of interprovincial trade barriers, we are not prepared to accept handing over to the federal government the enormous club they are asking for in Section 121 expansion, and we are supported in that by the smaller provinces in this country who see that as clearly centralizing and continuing the centralization of economic control in the hands of the central provinces of this country. Edmonton Beverly.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. The Alberta municipalities are concerned that they have no clear authority to recover costs for cleanup of spills that occur within their boundaries, Mr. Speaker. And for several years, municipalities have been in discussion and pressuring the government for such authority. Now, I'd like to file a copy from the City of Edmonton concerning this particular issue, Mr. Speaker, and ask the Minister of Municipal Affairs the following question. Given that the provincial government itself has the power to recover costs from companies responsible for spills of substance which pose danger to the public, why does the government refuse to give the same power to Alberta municipalities?
Mr. Speaker, I think the question is fairly raised, Mr. Speaker, and I am certainly willing to look into it, particularly at this time when both the new Municipal Government Act is being studied as well as the Municipal Taxation Act. I would believe, though, Mr. Speaker, that the municipalities are not totally precluded from recovering where they could, in fact, take an action, although that may not be the recommended or most desirable course to do. But where negligence could be shown on the part of somebody bringing about that sort of damage, it seems to me they would have a fair opportunity to recover it in court. However, the suggestion is accepted, and I hope that it will be coming forward in respect to the discussion paper that I have put out.
Well, Mr. Speaker, still the Minister of Municipal Affairs, I think the question here is, and the principle here is that those who pollute should be responsible for the cost of cleaning up the mess they create. And to the Minister, given that the City of Edmonton has told us that Alberta Public Safety, Alberta Municipal Affairs, Environment have indeed prepared wording to grant this authority to municipalities that would have been included in Bill 43, why did the government kill this proposed amendment at the last minute with no explanation to the municipalities?
I can't fully respond to that question, not being responsible for Bill 43, Mr. Speaker, but I believe the suggestion does have validity, and as Minister responsible for municipal affairs, the new Act and the Taxation Act, I am willing to take it under consideration. I do agree, Mr. Speaker, as suggested, that the municipalities should be in as good position to recover damage to that property that is within the municipality's jurisdiction, just as the provincial government is.
Edmonton Highlands, followed by Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, several months ago, a private for-profit lab approached the Charles Camsell Hospital and said, "We'd like to do a feasibility study of your lab services," and sure enough, the conclusion was they ought to be privatized. Now, Mr. Speaker, the same company then wanted to make a bid to get the contract, Mr. Speaker, and I wrote to the health minister about it, and she didn't have any serious concern. I'd like to ask the minister today, before this matter proceeds, will she now commit to prohibiting hospitals from privatizing health-related services to the for-profit sector? Remember, the for-profit sector wants to make money off of our squeezed healthcare system. Will she commit to that, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, the proposed action to be taken by the Council or other hospitals in this province is not in violation of the principles under the Canada Health Act, both in terms of public administration and medically required services, so I will not take the action which she suggests.
Well, Mr. Speaker, just a few weeks ago, the Minister of Health announced that there will be flat funding, that is, not even increased for the rate of inflation funding, for the healthcare system over the next 4 years. Now, I'll tell you what that means. They're even considering asking people who need hip replacements to go on the elective surgery list. This is a real serious issue. Mr. Speaker, the government can save a lot of money if it doesn't allow hospitals to go contract to the for-profit sector. On that basis alone, will the minister reconsider her position and tell hospitals for-profit sector has no role in the public health care system?
Again, Mr. Speaker, no, I will not, because the private sector does in fact have a role if it can prove that it is efficient, that it's operating fairly, and that it's meeting the responsibility of our health sector to provide access to health services. The honourable member also slipped in, and I would be wrong if I didn't comment on it, the issue of hip replacements, because the issue is not about whether something is medically required or not medically required. The issue is one that a hip replacement is deemed to be medically required. The issue is one of timing, which is what an elective surgery list is all about, and putting someone in a priority listing as to who needs that surgery first. So she confuses two issues, and I just want to clarify the issue for the House.
Yes. Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow we see the beginning of the experiment on the coin-in, coin-out video machines at the Calgary Stampede, adding to the escalation of gambling throughout this province. At this time, the province reaps millions upon millions of dollars from gambling. To the minister responsible, why does a minister insist that addiction to gambling may have a negative impact on some individuals and some Alberta families?
Mr. Speaker, I didn't get the complete context of the question, the latter part of the question. I simply didn't hear it, Mr. Speaker, which is part of the difficulty in responding to the question.
There was no context.
And I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the latter part of the question, Mr. Speaker.
Well, not the second question. Repeating the first question, Mr. Speaker, why does the minister continue to ignore the risk that addiction to gambling may have on some individuals and Alberta families?
Mr. Speaker, at no time is the government or this minister ignoring any risk, Mr. Speaker. Individuals in our society are adults, and they have options in their own life in terms of how they would want to determine with the expenditure of their dollars. Exactly. Some choose to go on holidays, some choose to go to the racetrack, as I know the member from Whitemud spends a great deal of time there. That's certainly his choice. Others choose to play bingo, others choose to go to hockey games or football games or the like. Mr. Speaker, I've said repeatedly, and the government has said repeatedly over the last number of years, if any group can come and provide information with respect to the risk factor associated with it, we'd be very, very pleased to take certain amounts of dollars that would come under the lottery fund and allocate them to, in fact, dealing with people who might find gaming to be of a compulsive nature. And I've said that publicly, Mr. Speaker, both in the House and outside of the House, and to this date I've still not had any people come to me with any quantitative information with respect to that matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to send over to the benefit of the minister tons and tons of information that will assist him in determination. My second question to the Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health must realize that addiction to gambling is recognized by professional people as a form of mental illness. What additional resources is the minister prepared to provide to offset this escalation in gambling, this negative impact that is being caused by it?
Well, interestingly, Mr. Speaker, we have just established the Family Life and Substance Abuse Foundation, and I think one of the very important roles that we've given that foundation in legislation is to look at the issues of addictive behavior, look at what drives people to addictive behavior, and perhaps some preconditions which drive people to addictive behavior, all of which may well include an addiction to gambling. Now, the member for the minister responsible for seniors may well wish to supplement my response.
Could very well be a good research project for the foundation. I'd be very happy to present it to them.
North, followed by Stony Plain.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I was one of several thousand Red Deer citizens enjoying several hours of festivities in Bower Ponds at Red Deer on Canada Day, and had the opportunity to chat with scores of people on a number of issues. The two that came up most were, number one, whether the Premier was going to be standing firm on Senate reform. He's already answered that. And number two, which I'll address to the Minister of Transportation, was related to possible legislation on helmets for cyclists. Many of the people who raised it were cyclists themselves, saying the cycling movement is already embracing in considerable numbers the aspect of helmets, and I'd like to ask the Minister if he could explain the process that he has in mind for this initiative.
Mr. Speaker, the process that's in place now is the fact that in Bill 53 there is an amendment included in that will sit over the summer and allow us to have a discussion, both the pros and the cons, about seatbelt use for children and families. Well, I've had a number of requests that have come into me from families and also a number of the MLAs and a number of other people, and there's no question about it, there are two sides to the issue. But by providing this opportunity, introducing the bill and letting it sit over the summer, provides the opportunity for everybody to discuss it both for and against.
Mr. Speaker, can the Minister indicate whether he's done any research showing that other jurisdictions may have moved in this direction, where they have or they haven't, and what effects that might have had on fatalities and injuries?
Well, Mr. Speaker, a number of things there's quite a number of states and counties in the United States. Manitoba has a situation where they have children that are in carriers are to wear helmets. Ontario is presently in the second reading stage of their legislation to enact a law that would go into force sometime after 1993, I believe. And one of the reasons that 1993 has been selected by us as the possible date of inclusion is the fact that we want to ensure that we have in place the proper helmets that are licensed for it. There are 3 on the market now that are suitable, apparently, given the information that I have, that are suitable. And presently, when you look at the number of casualties that have occurred as a result of a number of things, 75% of all the bicycle casualty collisions in Alberta in 1990 involved riders between 5 and 25. Almost 45% of them were between the age of 5 and 14. There were 627 casualties and 10 fatalities in that particular time. There's no question there is a rising concern with the number of bicycles that are on the roads today, as well as the increased number of vehicles. And when you've got the two of them together, it I would think provides the opportunity for a great discussion.
Plain, and if there's time, Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, there's a recent report on fetal alcohol syndrome of the House of Commons Committee on Health and Welfare indicate the highest rates are experienced in disadvantaged communities, including remote rural ones, poor inner-city communities, and Aboriginal communities. In fact, the report quotes the director of the First Nations Health Commission saying that the level of fetal alcohol syndrome and fetal alcohol effects among First Nations children represents a crisis situation. Given that consumption of alcohol during pregnancy is an extreme health risk to the fetus, when will the Minister of Health commit to working collaboratively with the identified communities to design and deliver aggressive public information campaigns to heighten awareness of the association between fetal alcohol syndrome, fetal alcohol effects, and alcohol consumption, especially in the communities that are deemed to be at high risk?
Enough for a question. Thanks.
Another area that I have already referred to the Family Life and Substance Abuse Foundation for examination. As you know, we, through ADAC, fund a number of Native recovery programs right at the moment, and this would fit in very well with exactly what we're doing in family life and substance abuse.
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, that's not what they're doing because the problem has been ignored for years. It's only now coming to light, and I would like to see some definitive action taken. However, I'll go to the Minister of Education. Given that children suffering from fetal alcohol effects usually don't have recognizable birth defects, but have severe learning disabilities, are socially dysfunction, have behavioral disorders, then they are victims within our school system simply because they are not receiving proper learning assistance related to their particular problems. They end up with very poor self-esteem, affective disorders, loss of productivity. If they're not recognized, these children end up as victims of the school system and in fact potential victims of the legal system. To the Minister of Education, will the Minister commit to working with educators to identify those who are learning disabled or behavior disordered as a result of fetal alcohol effects and to work to develop more effective and appropriate school programs to deal with learning disabilities of individuals?
Order, 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 order. Thank you. Take your place. Thank you. Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Stony Plain has raised a very serious issue that challenges our schools and our children in our schools today, and I can assure him that I will do precisely that.
Thank you. Edmonton Jasper Place, request for Standing Order 40.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe the pages have distributed copies of the motion which urges the government to suspend funding on a couple of initiatives that the government has been involved in. The urgency of this matter is that what the person who I think would be best described as the token environmentalist associated with the forestry tours this summer has declared that he regards this program as being purely a propaganda exercise. I quote, "I don't know of any of the instructional material which is going to emphasize the problems and degradation that comes from forestry operations." He's not having anything further to do with it. Earlier this week, Jim Martin, who's executive director of the Friends of Environmental Education Society, told me that he is now requesting from the government funding for this tremendously expensive initiative where teachers are taken around the province and shown the showpieces, you know, the best work that the forest industry is capable of doing, but are not taken to places where there are problems associated with logging, and I think only a fool would deny that those areas exist. Added to that is the ongoing involvement of the Alberta Forest Service in what's called the Focus on Forest program, which has produced curriculum material to date, is irreparably biased and in some respects just plain wrong. And that material was prepared by staff of the Forest Service, evidently on leave of absence, seconded to an outside organization, although they continue to work out of government offices using government equipment, government supplies, and so forth. So this Motion is urgent in the sense that these things are taking place now as we speak and would quite possibly continue to take place over the summer in the same way that they have, unless the Assembly takes some other action which is proposed here.
Understanding Order 40. The case is attempted to be made by the member for Edmonton Jasper Place with respect to the matter of urgency for the matter to be debated. Those in favor of granting the request to proceed, please say aye. Aye. The matter to proceed, thank you. Opposed, please say no. No. The matter fails. On a procedural motion, I understand, Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, yes, procedural motion, having alerted Government House Leader, and much earlier today, having discussed the matter with the House Leader of the caucus, which would be sponsoring a subsequent bill, I move that Bill 213, Labor Relations Code Amendment Act, be allowed to stand and retain its place on the order paper as the sponsoring member is unavoidably away at a public accounts conference.
Okay. The motion before the House will be the first part, because the second part gives us the reason why. So the motion before the House is that Bill 213 be allowed to stand and retain its place on the order paper. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. Let the record show unanimously. Thank you. Orders of the day.
Written questions.
Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the written questions on today's order paper